Hi everyone. Today I want to do a education to help you to understand how to create strong habits. And when we create these new habits, how we can build a relationship with them that allows them to hang around, because you've probably been like me, and with the best intention to start new habits. And day one, happy days. Day two, happy days. Day three, oops, forgot. Day four, I'm back to where I was. So how are we able to rewire our brain to be able to create new habits that support us in our health, our fitness, and our wellness, and they stick around? That's the question that I want to help answer today, and give you some of those tools that will actually allow you to do this. So the work that I'm sharing with you today is from Huberman Lab, and it is with Andrew Huberman, and he is a neuroscientist from the US, and he digs and delves into this question. He shares a lot of research, he shares different studies, and today basically I am doing a bit of a dive into his work that he shares with us on his podcast called Huberman Lab. So if you did want to further this information or dig a bit deeper or hear from the man himself, I would recommend that you go into his podcast and have a squiz around and maybe enjoy listening to some of those different podcasts that he has, which is all often about our health, our wellness, and our fitness. So girls, what I want to share with you today is 95% of our day is very much about our habits. It's just our daily habits. And so we're often unconscious or not aware of our daily habits. And when we're not aware of them, how can we really answer the question of, are our daily habits supporting us or sabotaging us in our health, fitness, and wellness needs? So becoming aware of our habits is actually a great first step to progressing toward changing them. So Huberman talks about two types of habits. And the first habit he talks about is goal-orientated habits. And he uses the example of, I think it was like if you wanted to run a marathon and it was on a certain date and you train toward that date. And that would be a goal-orientated habit that you've created to get to that goal. Closer to home, we could look at things like our Fit, Fast, Fabulous challenge, where we've been doing a 8-week challenge at present, where we're eating in a certain way and exercising in a certain way, with the goal being the end of that challenge. And then he talks about identity-based habits. And they're not so much goal-orientated, but more identity-based. And the way that I perceive he talks about this is things that we are identifying with. So little things like, for me, I think about, well, cleaning my teeth. I identify as somebody that cleans my teeth twice a day. And so it's those habits that we have that we link with our identity. And so he talks about certain habits are easy, and they're probably habits that we like to do and they come easily to us. And then these other habits that we find quite challenging. We don't really like doing them. And so it's a bit of a struggle to even take that step toward them. And the label that he gives to this is a thing called limbic friction. Knowing that he is a neuroscientist, he talks about the deep part of our brain, and is it easy? If it's easy, there's not much friction on that deep part of our brain. It's easy, it's automatic, happy days. And then there's those other habits that are creating what we call limbic friction. So it's really going against the grain. It's making us feel uncomfortable. And I guess for some of you, that may be things like, establishing good exercise routines, like, having to get up early of a morning, and that could potentially be creating that limbic friction in your body. And that, so it's not easy, it's hard. So he talks about dopamine being the reward hormone that we let go of in our body, and it gives us a feeling of motivation. So it gives us that feeling to propel forward. And so what he was saying was, dependent upon how much dopamine your body releases in these certain habits, as to how long we will stick to these new habits, or how quickly we will form them to be long-lasting. And so if there is a lot of limbic friction attached to a new habit that you are trying to bring about, so let's say, as an example, you truly want to exercise, but there's a lot of friction there. There's a lot of, I don't want to get out of bed early. I don't feel like I've got half an hour to exercise. I'm then going to have a shower. All these different things are causing friction for you. And so the dopamine response, the reward, would probably be low. And that could set you up for really losing motivation quickly and unraveling back to your old habits. So I want you to keep in mind, as I go through this, about this dopamine release, because it seems that it is a real foundational piece to us being able to maintain these new habits, to make them stick, and to, when you think about it, the big goal is to make them automatic. If we can make healthy habits, positive habits, wellness habits automatic, happy days. We're not having to think about it. We're not having to motivate ourselves. It is within us. I would say, like, at a cellular level. That's not his words, that's my words, but you know what I mean. It's like, it's automatic for me to brush my teeth before I go to bed overnight. It is automatic for me to get out of bed at a certain time. My body literally wakes up and I'm ready to rock and roll. So to make certain habits automatic, like exercise, that's the goal, isn't it? So today I want to share basically how we can get some dopamine hits and how we can have the body feeling rewarded for these positive habits that we want to create, and hence giving us an opportunity to making them stick, because that's the ultimate goal. So tool 1, he talks about a thing called procedural memory. And so procedural memory is an idea that you basically think of the picture. If he talks about it, thinking about it like a recipe, like if you were about to make a cake and the recipe was eggs, milk, sugar, flour, and you know that there's a certain order that they have to go in for you to create a cake to go into the oven. Then you get it out of the oven, you put it on the wire cooling rack, then you ice it. You know from A to Z the procedure to creating a cake, if you're anything like me. Taught at a very young age how to make a cake. So what this procedural memory is think of it like a recipe. What would the recipe be for your new habit? So I'm just going to use the example of exercise again. And one of our girls mentioned on one of our programs that she realized that exercising first thing in the morning was more beneficial to her than exercising in the afternoon. So for her to do this procedural memory trick, what she would do is she would think about from A to Z what needs to happen for that to happen. So it might be I have to set the alarm the night before, I go to bed, I go to sleep, I wake up to the alarm. She's thinking this through, visualizing it in her head. She gets out of bed, she probably goes to the toilet, and then she gets dressed. She's thinking about all the pieces of the puzzle that gets her from yay to nay. So from step one to the step and post the step. So after she's exercised, she thinks about how good she feels, how much energy she has, how she can go and eat afterwards. So breakfast, think the whole thing through, the recipe that happens. And then he talks about the idea that you only have to do this once or twice. And what it does is it basically opens up certain parts of our brain to allow this to happen in an easier way. So he said that, he said that it's supported by the psychology and the neuroscience studies, that this can help you to be able to basically open the door to being able to create these long-term habits. So step one is create the recipe of the new habit that you're wanting to create. And I want you to visualize it from the beginning to the end and post. So the thought of feeling good, having the shower, eating food afterwards, relaxing. I often go for a coffee at a coffee shop after I work out of a morning, and I love that idea sometimes when I don't want to get out of bed of a morning. It's like, but you get to sit and have that coffee at the coffee shop and relax and, just enjoy yourself. And that's enough to get me out of bed. And then I just go and do the exercise as well. So doing a procedural memory is trick one. Trick two is a thing that he calls task bracketing. And what task bracketing means is he puts the day into three parts. So part one of the day is from the moment you get up plus 8 hours. Part two of the day is 9 hours to say 15, 16, and part three of the day is 16 to 24. So you break your day into 3 8-hour sections. And so what he talks about is in part one of our day, for those of you, I think, that did Ageless, you will have learnt about our circadian rhythms. And basically what that teaches us is when we get up of a morning, our cortisol levels rise. And this is actually a positive thing. So cortisol hormone in the body rises, and it helps to make you alert, awake. It helps you to go the number twos, go to the toilet, and it gives you energy, a buzz for the day. Yeah. So cortisol, adrenaline, all those type of hormones are more prevalent very first thing in the morning. In fact, they're a positive thing. They give us that burst of energy. And then as we go through our day, as it gets later, about 2 p.m. in the day, that cortisol starts to drop. So if you can think of a graph, the cortisol levels start to drop, and then serotonin and melatonin start to come into the body, and they start to come up and they rise. Serotonin is a relaxation hormone, as melatonin is a hormone that helps us to get sleepy and go to sleep overnight. So that's starting to rise, getting in preparation for that third phase, which is our sleeping phase, our rest and repair phase. So if you go back to the idea of phase 1, cortisol, energy, body active, and then phase 2, body starting to slow down, phase 3, body unconscious, asleep. Well, you can start to do a thing that he calls task bracketing to support you. So if your new habit was you want to exercise on a daily basis and you truly want it to be a long-term sustainable habit, it would be smart to place that task in bracket 1 of your day, phase 1 of your day. Why? Because that's when your cortisol levels are higher. That's when your adrenaline is higher. That's when your energy levels are higher. So you are more likely to maintain that healthy habit than if you did it in phase 2. And hopefully no one's exercising in phase 3 when we're unconscious asleep in bed. So starting to think about what your new habits are and starting to help yourself to put them into different brackets. So for me, my goal for next year is to start to work on my rest and repair tools. And for me, those rest and repair tools are things like meditation, journaling, breath work, yoga nidra, all those type of things to bring my body down, to bring my body into more relaxation, to reduce stress levels in my body. Because let's face it, I personally have nailed the active part, the resistance training, the cardio training, but I haven't quite nailed, I'm still a work in progress with the relaxation side, with getting my body into true rest and repair. And so for me, I would be best to bracket those new practices later in the day in my phase 2 section of my day. Because if I chose to go, this is my New Year's resolution, I'm going to meditate every day. For me personally, if I tried to meditate in phase 1 of my day, I'm more than likely going to fail within the first 21 days. And the reason being is my body is energy plus first thing in the morning. Anyone will tell you that knows me, oh God, she's a chatter of a morning. She talks. I'm upbeat. I'm full of energy. I'm a wire of a morning. And so for me to sort of try and calm down, but if I stack it into the second part of my day, the likelihood is it's going to happen. I'm actually in a better state for that to happen and to happen on a regular basis. And we know it's about consistency. So some people will say, well, how long does it how long do I have to do it for this habit to really stick, to get inside of me? And interestingly, Huberman talks about it can take anywhere between 18 and 254 days, and that is based on the research. So if you want to hear about that study, by all means, get on his podcast, and he talks about that, but anywhere from 18 to 254. But I want to go back to that idea about the dopamine again, because if you think about it, if you can get the dopamine hits going, the likelihood is it will stick earlier than if it's a struggle. Like if it's really creating that limbic resistance, well, the likelihood is it could take a lot longer to really become easier for you than maybe if it's set into a slot in your day that's not going to create so much limbic resistance. So I hope that that makes sense. The third tool that I want to talk about is, sorry guys, the third tool is the reward system. And so you'll often hear me say, girls, have a weekly check-in with yourself. And during that weekly check-in, the first thing you ask yourself is, what did I do well this week? And the reason I ask you to ask yourself that is to give yourself a pat on the back. And the reason is we're often so judgmental of ourselves that we're like, well, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, I did this wrong, I did that wrong. Oh God, I've got to improve on those things. Can I ask you, do you think you're getting a motivational dopamine hit from being so judgmental on everything you did wrong? Well, you would be correct if you said, no, Dana, I don't think you would, because the reality is you wouldn't get a dopamine hit. The reality is that you're actually creating a feeling of frustration, resentment, failure, those what I call below the line emotions. And do you think that's making you feel motivated, supported, and inspired to go again the next week? No, it's not. If you can get in the habit of rewarding yourself on a daily basis for all the things you did right, and girls, I'm sure you do a lot of things right, but our brain and our body tends to focus on what we did wrong. It tends to spotlight that area of our life. But the reality is, if we can look at the big picture, 90% of our day, we probably did a lot of really right things. And so it is a matter of really remembering to give yourself a little pat on the back, a little good on me, and give yourself that little reward, encouragement. And what that will do is it'll give you a little dopamine spike. The more little dopamine spikes we can get, the more motivated, the more energy we will have toward creating these new habits. And so this reward system will actually help us. And you think of a little child that's learning to walk, we sit there and we encourage them, and they take one step, and we're like, oh, happy days, my day here is done. My child has taken that very first step. And the child's like, oh God, I've got so much congratulations here. I've got hugs, I've got cuddles, I've got these voices that are celebrating all around me. Happy days, I must have done something right. Well, imagine if you were like that. I'm not saying clap and cheer and everything else, but if you truly gave yourself an unbelievable moment of, well done. You really are chipping away at this health, fitness, wellness thing of an aging woman, and you're plugged in and you're doing it, and you're still there. And that in itself is enough to give yourself a pat on the back. So tool number 3 is rewarding yourself on a daily basis, because it is the journey that gives you the long-term result. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to Christmas time and you start to see the decorations and you start to see Santa and you start to see the kids getting excited and you start to see all the gifts in the shops and the gifts under the tree, do any of you have that inner feeling of Christmas is coming? It's an exciting time for us in Australia. It's warmer weather. It's just family, it's gifts, it's friends, it's relaxation, it's fun in the sun. And I get these little moments all through December that I think, I wish December was every month, because I'm so happy in December. And it's because I'm getting these constant little dopamine hits. And so if you can be like that toward your health, your fitness, your wellness, and your own self, these little dopamine hits are going to support you in creating and establishing these long-term new habits that you would really love to be a part of your life automatically. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So girls, that's what I want to share with you. If you are listening to this and you've been a part of our workshop that I've done on our Live Longer Online Health Club members page, I want you now to go and listen to the next video where I share with you how we are going to bring all this into fruition for 2023, and what my plan of attack is based on the research, based on the science of how we can be successful in this. I want you to go and listen to that now. All right, girls. Well, thanks for listening. Take care. Anybody that's not part of our Live Longer Online Health Club, if you would like more information, please do reach out, and happy days. We've also got some free training available for you if you would like to understand more about how to lose weight as a woman in her 50s, going through hormone changes, menopause, and all those good fun things. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.